how do you think AI would affect sales marketing in the long term, right? Currently, for my startup, I'm building a automation platform for services using AI. And one of the specific features that we're building out is a AI chatbot, which would be trained on the company's data. So any data that's collected during the use of our platform or any data that they input to train the model on, we're going to essentially use that to create a chatbot that will talk to customers. And then once its confidence level is below a certain threshold, it would sort of, switch to an actual service provider. And for that, it's very mediocre. And because of the limitations of AI, it sort of, isn't as potentially great as it possibly could be. So my question is, how do you think it would really affect how we interact with sales altogether? Do you think that we would lose trust in the system and lose trust in sales in terms of people actually interacting with sales, stuff like that? Because long-term wise, you could actually, hop on a call with the sales representative and be actually talking to an AI. You would not know about that. Do you think that would affect people's trust in companies? Or do you think that would actually improve their ability to sell the product that they want to sell?
I don't know. I don't really set up and run sales organizations, and I haven't been using LLMs for anything like that. But my intuitive guess would be that it's better to have the sales AI behind a salesperson rather than in front of. Because if your customers are important and they get a wind that they're talking to an automated system, they're going to be pretty annoyed. They're going to think you don't care enough to talk to them directly. And these systems still have a fairly high failure or error rate, call it 10 or 20%. So anyone engaging in a long conversation, one of these things will figure out pretty quickly that it's an AI and not a human, and then they'll get annoyed. But it could be very useful to a salesperson who knows it's an AI and is using it quickly to look up facts or create presentation. So I think it's more of a behind the salesperson tool than an in front of a salesperson tool.
Yes, I definitely agree with Keith. I think the end result is there's going to still be the same proportion of people that come out successful, but the key skills that define that might change. And I have a feeling that it's starting to shift towards more domain-specific knowledge, even in B2C tech. I think the most loosely related example is kind of how business knowledge was less prioritized, especially across different industries. You see more either engineers, or in like health, you see more health professionals starting their own businesses to solve problems, because before you might have needed an MBA because we thought that business knowledge was needed. But once you democratize that knowledge, then it becomes easier for people in the specific industry to solve more lower level problems rather than the generic ones. And I'm starting to see the same trend in tech. I think a good reference point for me is health tech. I'm starting to see more people in health tech become further invested. Even hospitals are investing a lot in, the tech ecosystem, educating their clinicians, because it's becoming easier to develop and kind of understand how these things work. Before, you might have needed an engineer to come into a hospital and solve the high level problems. But obviously, because of their lack of domain expertise, even if it solves a high level problem, it doesn't really work as fluidly with the clinic environment. And so as you move forward with more AI tools and make it easier for features to be developed, it becomes more of a case of, are you directly working with problems and solving them at a lower level for consumers, because you actually see the management issues, which I think is a good thing. It'll allow people to just do what they want to do and go into industries they're interested in, and allows people within those industries to actually solve them pretty effectively. It's kind of funny because as these tech tools become better and people question whether we're becoming more dumb to actually do the lower level things, my neuroscience prof was mentioning that every generation is already getting half as dumb, in terms of, brain capacity, and not really due to the environment, but just how our brains are wired. And as each generation goes down, our genetic maximum lowers. like maybe in the 1800s, we would have reached our intelligence phenotypic max, but now we're able to capitalize on even a lower phenotypic max way better because we're educating and making the most of it. Kind of like how height, we might have been able to grow taller before, but now we have, better nutrition, and more education on exercise patterns. And so we're reaching the genetic potential to grow, but the potential itself is lowering. So I guess the rise of AI is kind of nice because as we get dumber, we have more tools to, I guess, maintain that threshold.
As a passing note that the most productive, the best coders already became so much better with AI. So that's already indicating your hypothesis.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as ignorance rather than dumbness. Not everyone needs to know how, or even should know how the sausage is made. And smartness seems to be partly an emergent feature of the knowledge that's around at the time. And you could be someone who was ineffective until a certain technology appeared in the market, and then you just have the right knowledge, you have the right skills to be able to apply that and become transformative.
But the question becomes, when does transformative become destructive? Like, where do we draw the line in that aspect? Would it be considered cheating at a point of time, or would it be considered as really innovative and life-changing? I think with AI and AI being used as sort of a marketing tool or a tool to convince or sell a product or a thing, under the impression that it's a human doing that, would that be considered lying, or would that be considered innovative? That's kind of really the question being implied here.